Hi everyone, Sean here from the Sci-Fi Model Guy, and welcome to Chapter 4 of the Klingon D7 Battle Cruiser full build series from AMT. Now she's right here in front of me, all the green is done, and we're ready to start applying the gray and get all the details done there. So that'll be in the next video after this. I was hoping to be a little bit further along in the project than currently, but we had some unfortunate weather here, and we had a tower out for 3 days, so we're back on track now. Thankfully, no injuries, no deaths in the town here where I'm at, and everything is good. So thoughts and prayers go out to people who were very severely damaged. For me, it's just kind of been a minor inconvenience. So there are a lot of folks around here that have pretty much lost everything. So thoughts and prayers out to them, and thankfully everyone's alive and good. So it's just stuff that got ruined. But that being said, we're going to continue to move forward with this project. We just got some gray to finish here and some details, so we'll go that in the next video in Chapter 5, and then we'll finish up. Probably we'll end up finishing this one with the Chapter 6, so 2 more weeks. And got a whole nother build series. It'll be a 2-video build series after this. It's an R2D2 and R5D4 build series, and I want to thank our friends over at Echo Base Network who were kind enough to shout the channel out. So some of the new subscribers came from there, and I want to thank Nick and Coach over there for shouting out this channel. Really appreciate it, and hope you guys like that build. But we'll be checking out. So if anyone here is curious, go to Echo Base Network, and a picture of the build that we did for them is on their community tab. You can see a picture of that. It's pretty cool. But we'll have a little build series for that coming up after this D7 is done. And aside from that, everyone, we are at 888 subscribers now, which is just amazing. So we need 112 more for that goal of 1,000, and then we'll be doing the drawing for the Enterprise giveaway. So remember, hashtag Enterprise right there across the screen. Enter that on this video or any other video on the channel, and we will capture your name and we'll do a drawing once we hit 1,000 subs. You don't need to be a subscriber to win, but it does help get us to that 1,000. So really appreciate everyone who has subscribed so far. We're really moving along and looking forward to doing that build for the lucky person. Hopefully soon we can get it for you. Anyway, all right, everybody, that's it for the intro. We'll see you in a week with another update on the D7, and we'll just see you down the road. Have a good one. Okay, everyone, so just a little aside here, and I wanted to show you all the putty work that was done here on the bridge. So everything is glued together, and we've got the putty work in here. So I'm just going to hold it up to the camera so you can see that it's in there pretty well. Probably have a little bit more cleanup I can do with the file, but it's pretty much good. So or there's some ugly stuff in there. It looks like I need to still attack, but yeah, it's more or less pretty good. So real quick, I just wanted to let you know how I got this cleaned up. So you can see here I've got a cotton swab, and I just put a little water into a bowl, and I would just dip the swab in there and just kind of go through here and slowly get rid of the putty. Now remember, I'm using here, or maybe not remember, but here I'm using this here. It's perfect plastic putty for these gaps, and this is a great putty for kind of medium-sized gaps that you might have. So the filler, at this seam where we had that little light leak, it's kind of smeared that in there, and this stuff's really good because it cleans up really well with water. You just got to let it dry for about 10 minutes or so, and it's still a little bit malleable after that. And this, if you get a little cotton swab and get it wet, and you can just kind of go and clean it up, and then what's in the seam will pretty much stay in there. And that's a good time to do it. Don't let it dry all the way. You want to get it dry most of the way. That way the water works, but then it still won't pull anything out of the gap. So that's there's kind of like that sweet spot I've found anyway, where you let it dry almost completely, and then you can get it with a little bit of a wet swab there. And I also have these here. They're a little smaller, and I was able to clean that up. Took me a while, but I just try to, put more than I think I know, and then I'll scrape it off later there. So And also you can see here I've got some very thin masking tape, and I put that around the windows, and I put it here in the excuse me, put it here in the front as well. So that way I can go ahead and just mask all of this with some primer and then some black paint. So speaking of that, now because I've got some, seam lines in there and these things, I'm not so sure. What I'm going to do is hit this with some filler primer, and I will be right back and show you that. So I'm just going to put it on pause. I forgot to bring it over here. So okay, so now I'm back. Sorry about that. But right here is the filler primer that I have. It's a U-Paul filler primer. I get it at AutoZone or Chief Auto Parts, O'Reilly, those kind of places. And this is a really good filling primer. It's a little bit thicker than most. And it's really good for if you have got some light abrasions, maybe some scuff marks on some plastic, you want to fill it in. It's really good for that. So it's not too expensive, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use, I have very little left in here. It's like it's almost empty, but I just got to give it a few shots into here, into this area there, and that should be good. And then whatever's left, I'll just finish the top and hit the front here, because we got some light leaks and stuff, or not light leaks, light spots, because the especially at the seams here, light will tend to kind of come through a little bit, even though if you light block the inside like we showed earlier. So we'll do a little bit of filler primer. Hopefully I have enough. I should go and get some more actually, but yeah. So the other little update here is that I've shoved all the wires in there. There were a lot. I was kind of actually concerned that they were going to be so many in here that they would block the light coming through these windows. And I did a test, and you can kind of see it's a little bit diminished as far as the light level, but that's actually okay. It's no problem at all, because it was very bright in there anyway, so it's fine. You can still see all the windows and everything just fine. The only weird little thing is that, see these red wires in there? Some of the light coming through the windows actually had a bit of a red tint to it, so consider that if you're building along with me. You may want to actually paint the wires white before, if you're really concerned about coloring. Just spray them with white if you want. I didn't want to do that. Again, I mean, this is kind of just a fun little project for me, and I'm trying to do my best, but I'm not trying to make it like worthy of being on film or something like that. It's just a fun little project to do and work on some practice my seam work and stuff. Anyway, all right, talked enough here. So I'm going to go over and just get this with the filler primer, and then when that dries, I'll do a coat of black on the outside, just with some, Tamiya black matte paint, and that should be enough to hit all the light spots that we have coming out, and then we'll go ahead and assemble the model. So, all right, everyone, we'll see you very shortly. All right, everyone. So just a little bit of an update right here. So she's all assembled here and looking really good. And I do have to say, I know this was mentioned previously, but I used this that filler primer that we discussed previously. Now, I just want to point this out. Look at how nice this is. I mean, so you cannot see the seam line. I can't feel the seam line. This stuff is really good, and I think I'm going to make some good use of that in the future. Now, I do need to be careful, or we do need to be careful with it, because it is a filler primer. It's very thick, so if you have a lot of details in a piece, a lot of grooves or lines or something, it may not be something you want to do. But for something like this, where it was nice and thin, there it is. I taped over the thing. I think this was shown before. But wow, just what a nice job. You can kind of see it here just in the coloration, but once we get the regular paint on there, that's going to completely disappear. So that's looking really good. So the other thing was, there was a little bit of a light leak coming through here. This piece, there was just the tiniest little sliver, and so I just put some putty in there. Did not need any on this part, except for right there in the corner. And then so I want to point out this part here. So I'm going to take the old phone off. Now, this deck thing, I'm not happy with this at all. I'm going to go through here and clean it up some more. Yes, it does look worse when I zoom in like this, but even zoomed out, it doesn't look good. Um, there was just this ugly gap right here between the hull and this piece. So I did throw in some putty in there, but the thing is that this thing is like a comb, so all that putty just kind of goes up in there. So I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna get the little tiny cotton swabs wet and just work on it up and down and try to get some of that stuff scraped out of there. Um, and I think this might be a time for that filler primer as well, even though it's going to fill in some of these grooves. We'll see. So there was quite a bit of putty work that was needed right here. There was a big gap there between this little side piece and that main deck. A little less so over here. I mean, you can really see the age of this kit really shows its teeth, when you start looking at gaps. But also keeping in mind, they back when this was put out, I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think many people were lighting their models back then. I mean, it wasn't, for sure, the manufacturers were not considering lighting when they designed these things. They wanted to get the stuff out there on the shelves and start selling them. I'm sure the technology existed, but I know the LEDs, SMDs didn't really exist back then. So it could have been that just lighting wasn't even a question on a model of this small size back at the time. So that is one thing to keep in mind. I'm sure there was putty work, but the putty work's basically easy. It's just, you have to get it perfect if you don't want any light leaks coming out of it. So anyway, I'm just going to pan around here. So there's some more putty work I did right here. It was just kind of an apparent gap when I put the nacelles on. And we'll turn it over here. And right here, I put, so this nacelle, there's a very big gap right there. On this nacelle, it wasn't so apparent. Again, so not perfectly aligned, not really equal on this kit. So I'm going to have to put a couple more, as a car drives by, I'm going to have to put a couple more coats of putty in on these areas. You can see kind of where it dried, and this is a good example of how putty works. So when I put this in there, it was nice and smooth. Now that it's drying, you see it starting to crack a little bit. So it does take several coats or several rounds of it. You don't want to put too much on at any one time, because that will happen. Let's see, back here, there was a little bit of putty work that I did right here in this little gray area that you're seeing. I put a little, no, I didn't put any putty there. Just going around here. And here's the residual, all this orange, red stuff. This is the spot putty we put in there. And that's going to look really sharp when we get the filler primer on here. So this is going to get the filler primer as well, just to make sure we cover all those seam lines on the nacelles. But yeah, another coat there, another coat there, and let's see, we'll turn it around to the top. And I went ahead and put some on here because so we're going to have to sand that down, of course, and get another coat, and then we'll go for the other side, for the port side. And that's not quite as bad. That was a little bit better. But I'm not going to sand anything right now, because I just glued all this stuff together a couple of hours ago. And except for the neck. I did that last night. Or I'm sorry, not last night, way earlier today. So that firmed up really nicely, and it's good. It's on nice and straight. So again, kind of going back to what we said. Oh yeah, there's a little bit more putty work here. I'm gonna have to clean that up as well. What was I saying? So I aligned it, held it there probably for a good 10 minutes. Just held it like this. Once I got it aligned, I just held it here, and I watched a video on YouTube or something like that, and just before I knew it, it was kind of done. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to let this glue dry overnight. I don't want to stress the model, rough it up, or handle it with sanding too much. So I'm going to let everything kind of settle and dry overnight, and I'll come back in the morning, and we'll sand some of this primer down, put another coat of primer. We're going to sand the putty down, some of these sharp edges here, try to get those a little bit smoothed out and cleaned up. then another round or two of putty, another sanding, get it done with the tack rag, get all the debris off. Then we'll go the whole ship with the filler primer. And then after that, we'll prime it white and then paint the color. So it's turning out to need a lot of work, but again, I think this is kind of like a mid-range as far as the effort I'm putting in here. I do have to put the chrome pieces on, of course, after we're done painting. I did decide on painting those a bare metal silver. So when we hit it with the clear coat, it'll dull it out a little bit. I don't want it too shiny. But yeah, I'm going to, I'm not going to go super crazy on it, but because there's a lot of putty that would be needed here. But I do think this is a great opportunity to practice some putty work. So this is a good kit for that because, again, like this is a weird shape, a lot of curving here. So it's not going to line up exactly right. Oh, yeah, right. So that's another thing to point out. So I lined this up as best as I possibly could. Now, there's a weird shape and this weird curve, so I knew it wasn't going to align perfectly. But I want to point something out here. So right along here, you can see it's a pretty flush connection there. I can run my finger on there. You don't really feel much. But when I go over here, it's just really hanging over. I mean, almost like a 1/16 of an inch right here. It's not flush whatsoever. So there's this overhang. You can see this little shelf looking thing. It's not present over here. It just didn't line up properly, but it's lined up on the front. So, again, kind of hard to say. It could have been warped a little bit, but probably every kit's going to have some measure of this going on. So I'm not even going to attempt to flatten this out right here because it would be too much. I'm going to have to let this little flaw show. That would be way too much grinding away, way too much flattening. I'm not submitting this for a contest. So that I'm letting go. But all the other stuff like the putty here and everything else, I think this is just a good opportunity to do some practice with the putty work and see, hone the skills a little bit, as it were, and get them in all the little areas that we can. And eventually, the more little things like that we can cut down easily, anyway, because like this is simple, then at the end result, I think will show, the effort will show. Anyway, all right, so that's it. Just wanted to do a little bit of a tour on where we are as far as prepping and what kind of work is needed to be put in here. So we'll, let this dry overnight, sand it, putty again, sand and putty again, probably 2 or 3 more rounds of putty, and it should be back. So the next section that is going to be recorded will be when all the putty is done and primed up. Well, actually, maybe we'll show the finished primer before the finished putty. There, I knew the right words are in there somewhere. But we'll get the finished putty work before the primer, just to show and document what happened there. So, okay, guys, stand by. It's going to be a couple days for me, so we'll catch you soon. All right, everybody. So scratch the last thing I said about waiting a day or so. So came back out here and everything seemed to be pretty good and dry. So just went ahead and applied the second coat of the primer here. So what I'm going to do now is just take this all over to the other side of the garage and give this sucker a paint. Give it a layer of the filler primer. Now, this part here, it's going to need some more putty, most likely. So we'll take care of that real quick, let it dry, and then go ahead and give it a quick paint job. So, yeah, I thought it was going to need to dry overnight, but I was just started using a very light touch with the sandpaper, and it was coming right off. So I wasn't having to treat the model very roughly. I was just very gently sanding, and it was coming right off and working. So why wait, right? It's, anyway, so yeah, we're gonna give this part another quick layer of the putty, get that smoothed out a little bit, and then we'll give it the filler primer. All right, stand by, and this will be all gray. Hey everyone. Okay, so a little bit of a mishap happened. The ship is painted, and I'll pan the camera up in a minute and show you. So this is the Tamiya cockpit green XF71, and after painting this thing, I'm like, this is just dark. It's not what I thought. So I'm going to show you here. Usually, the Tamiya colors are pretty much exactly what their paint cap is, but look at this. This green right here is the green that it came out. Now I'm going to pan the camera up so you can see the ship. And when I hold this against the ship, you don't really see that much of a difference, right? Like, at least from what I'm seeing on the camera, I don't see much of a difference. This looks about like that. But when you see this contrast, this is what it came out. And just the ship is extremely dark. I am not pleased with the color. I'm a little bit disappointed with the this mishap here. So, this cockpit green, I really thought it was going to be this. Anyway, so if you're building alongside of this series, just keep that in mind. Just for my taste, this is just far too dark. I'm going to reach up here, hopefully without jostling the camera around too much. So here's the XF12. Now, to me, oops, sorry. This is just too much of a contrast. This is too dark and it's too light. I still want this gray to be on the top. So we're going to set the camera back down on the mount. And we're going to show you a little color palette that I made. And it is right here. So what you're looking at here is, there's the XF12, the gray. Let me move the ship out of the way because it's causing some shadows, and that's not good. Here you go. All right, so here's the XF12, and you can see here when you look at these two, there is a hint of green in that gray, like I keep saying over and over, which is why I thought these would pair nice. Sorry, ignore that middle one. So this one on the left is the cockpit green. Look at that. This is more in line definitely with this, right? But this is how it came out, just too dark. Now this green here, this is exactly what I was going for. And that green is Vallejo 71009. And it's in, it's DE green. I don't know what that is in English. This is imported paint. I know there is an American version or an English version of it, but when I picked this up at the store, this is what I got. Now, if you're going to order this, one thing I just learned, when you order, especially off Amazon, when you enter in these numbers here, you got to do it without that period. So it would be Vallejo Model Air 71009, or just Vallejo 71009. That's how you want to do it. So ignore that little dot, and you do it. So I did order another bottle of this. This is probably enough to do the ship, but this is this is the perfect green. This is what I was going for. But if you notice here, look at that. The actual green of this paint does match this cap. So I was really thinking, oh, this cockpit green is going to be fine. I had this in hand and I just hadn't used it before. I just had picked it up. I've got a bunch of greens on hand because I've got some ships that eventually I want to do that have various shades of green in them. So I just grabbed a whole bunch one day when I was shopping. So here we go. So we're going to be doing the ship. We're going to redo the ship in this green color, in this I think it's duck egg green when I saw it online, because I ordered another bottle. It was $3.50 from A to Z Hobbies, I think it was. Pretty nice website. I've ordered stuff from there before. They deliver pretty fast, so this is going to be here to my house in a couple of days, and that's I'm really happy about that. So check them out, A to Z Hobbies. If I can remember, I'll put a link on, but anyway, so that's that. And just this green here I had used before, and this is why I thought it was this one. This is the green that we're using in the Jupiter 2 build, and it's behind me, and I can't bring it over here to show you, but you see the results here. So we're going to go with that. These two are very close together. This is exactly the contrast that was the aim when we started this video, so we're going to go with that. I think that's going to look really nice. Another thing to keep in mind, everyone, even though if you don't think this is too dark, when we put the not matte coats, I'm actually going to do a gloss coat on this one. It will darken the tone, so keep that in mind. But yeah, we're going to go high gloss on this one. I want this one to be shiny and a little bit different than the other build. So, okay, that is it for this one. If you're building alongside me, hopefully you haven't started painting yet, but this is the one we're going with, 71009 Vallejo. There I go again. Vallejo Model Air. Okay, everyone. We'll talk to you in a minute. Okay, everyone, so this is going to be the last section of this video, and my apologies here on that. And do owe you another apology. In the last section, we had talked about showing the primer job and the filler primer and everything. I forgot to record that, so I do apologize. But now the painting has been completed. Now in the last section, we talked about using the Vallejo Model Air and the duck egg green. So there's that, and I was able to get through all the painting without having to wait for the extra bottle that I ordered. And this is the new one that came in. So it's a nice little new bottle design there. Shows how old my stuff is. So yeah, it's all ready. I'm super happy with the results here. And the putty work all worked out just nice, just like I had hoped. So we're gonna do a little bit of zoom on this. So there's the putty work on that, and the where the neck connects here looks all nice and good. We sanded all the areas here, so that seems good. There's no seam apparent on the nacelles here where that connected. If you recall, there were some red spot putty that we had laid down. And then there's the area here. This is still not as nice as we would like, but it's just gonna have to let it go. I don't want to spend eons scraping that away. So there's a little bit of a sanding mark here that will go away when we paint it gray. So we're gonna do gray here, and we're going to mask it off and just paint it gray. So that's going to be for the next video. So we just wanted to show off here where we are. There's the back of the ship. Looks really good. So all the putty work really worked out. Again, the only part that's a little bit disappointing is, again, where it's nice and smooth there, flush, and then over here it's just not, and that's just, there's a good angle there. I think the last one we didn't see a very good angle of that. So this will demonstrate kind of. So yeah, this could have been grinded down, but it would have just been a lot of work. And like we've said before, at some point you just have to decide what are you going to let go and what are you going to try to make perfect. So again, this is just kind of a little personal fun project. So decided to let that part go. Okay. So real quick about the painting, the scheme that we're going to do here. This is going to be the XF12 up here. The top up here, this area is going to be gray as well. And then probably then this area gray, we're going to leave these guys green. So we'll be using the liquid mask for that to get, we'll make a full section of that and show off all the masking work that's done and kind of document how we're going to do that. But it's pretty much all done. Just some accent colors here, like this area here. I don't know what color we're going to do, but we'll do some accents on the nacelles. Maybe take a little bit of artistic license to do it. And then when all said and done, we're going to hit this with a high gloss finish. Usually we do more of a matte finish with the duplicolor matte, the auto stuff, the matte wheel stuff. This time though, we're going to go high gloss. I just want this to be a little bit different. But yeah, so there we are. That's the end of this video, everybody. We're going to keep this one around 30 minutes, and I'll start doing some more work here, and we will see you coming soon on the next video. Take care.